And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Thursday, July 11th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCPodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So I hope you guys enjoyed my, if you saw my cold open, which was I accidentally hit, the one-person graphic. So you saw me before I played the intro that I usually play before I start. So that was my first official cold open. It was like a 2-second snap of me, and then I clicked on the intro. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. So let's get into the rundown for the show today. So I did watch episode 2. Now I did watch it 2 days ago, but it was late. I was coming home from work, so I didn't want to put it in the show yesterday. So we're going to talk about episode 2 of Hard Knocks with the Giants. I'll give you my overall thoughts on the episode. I did also watch the first episode of Receiver. Now, they released all 8 episodes, so I'll have to watch all of them at some point. But I did sit down and watch the first one last night, so maybe I'll talk about that a little bit towards the end of this segment here. But yeah, so we'll get into the Hard Knocks episode. I'll recap it, give you my thoughts. Then we have reached our final schedule breakdown. Today it'll be the Denver Broncos schedule, so I'll get into that. In the third part of the show, we'll talk about Patrick Mahomes winning the ESPY for the best NFL player, so I'll give you my thoughts on that. In the fourth part of the show, I'll talk about what an NFL scout had to say about Deshaun Watson and his upcoming 2024 campaign. And then in the final part of the show, we'll talk about some comments made by Davante Adams about Antonio Pierce. And also, I kind of wanted to touch upon something else regarding Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. So that's the rundown for the show today. Hope everybody's doing well. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about episode 2 of the Giants' Hard Knocks. So, interesting episode, and I think a lot of people are really excited for the next one. And I'll get into that because it's involves Saquon Barkley. But yeah, it was an interesting episode. You kind of saw the Giants were at the combine, so we saw all that. We also saw, before we get into the combine stuff, one of the interesting things was how these guys in the front office handle the media, and you kind of get to see a behind the scenes when it comes to that, because Joe Schoen kind of got the rundown of what questions he would be asked before he took the podium. And, he talked about what he would say. And, the questions had to do with Saquon Barkley, of course, because that really has been the main topic, before he signed with the Eagles, of course. That was something that, was talked about a lot, is what are the Giants going to do with Saquon Barkley? And I thought that was interesting, because then it just kind of makes you wonder, a lot of the lines that, some of these guys say are rehearsed, and it was funny because he said something about, but he wasn't going to say it. It was about how, they offered Saquon a ton of money, but he didn't take it. He said that before he took the podium, but he's like, yeah, I'm not going to say that. So that was kind of funny. But yeah, so they went to the combine. You kind of saw them, watching, these guys run the 40-yard dash. I think I touched upon, them watching the Xavier Worthy 40-yard dash, and Joe Schoen was like, he's got to run it again to try to break the record, and he did. He broke John Ross's record. He got a 4.21 on the 40-yard dash. And I did touch upon it, because they said, all right, well, he's going to be taken at the end of the first round, and sure enough, he got taken by the Kansas City Chiefs. And they made that trade with the Buffalo Bills to get Xavier Worthy. And also, they met with a lot of the quarterbacks as well. They met, with the top quarterbacks. They met with Caleb Williams. They met with Jaden Daniels, J.J.McCarthy, Drake May. They met with all those guys. And I'll be honest, like when Brian Dable's like talking to them about, certain plays and things like that, I kind of got lost. But and you also saw them interview Malik Neighbors as well. And, Dable asked some questions about, how do you handle losing, things like that. And the other thing, too, is Joe Schoen, spoke with the Patriots while they were at the Combine. Because the Patriots, there was that speculation that they possibly were going to, or not possibly, but there were speculation that maybe, they'd be taking offers and possibly trade out of the number 3 pick. And Joe Schoen's like, keep me in the back of your mind because, the Giants were interested in maybe trading up and trying to take, one of the top quarterbacks. But we all know that ended up not happening. And the Giants are going to be rolling out Daniel Jones. But they did also bring up, they need a backup plan for Daniel Jones. There was a little snippet of that in there where Joe Schoen was like, we need a backup quarterback, whether it's a young guy or we got to, go out and trade for somebody, sign someone, whatever the case may be. And we now know that eventually became Drew Lock. So that's their backup plan. Now, if the Giants were able to trade up, they probably would have taken a quarterback, but they ended up staying at 6. They took Malik Neighbors, and, we know the rest of the story there. But then towards the end of the episode, you had Joe Schoen talking to Saquon Barkley's agent and Saquon himself. Now, when Joe Schoen talked to Saquon, Saquon just did not seem interested in talking to Joe Schoen. And Joe Schoen basically told him, we're not going to franchise tag you. Go test the market. See what kind of offer you get, and then come back to us, and we'll see if we match that. Now, we know that Saquon came out and said the Giants never offered him anything. So we're going to find out in next week's episode, how everything kind of unfolded. And I'm interested to see, how that is, But, again, I'm not a Giant fan that's, upset with Saquon taking more money to go elsewhere. If the Giants did offer him a contract, I mean, they offered him one, last year, and he didn't take it. So it is what it is. And, like they were talking about in episode 1, the Giants have a lot of holes. On the offensive line, there's holes on defense. They got to get more pass catchers. I think when you look at the needs for the Giants, running back is not a top priority. And, they went out and they got Devin Singletary, and I think he's a nice player. He's not Saquon Barkley, but the Giants have other needs. The offensive line, pass catchers. It's just and quarterback. But they're gonna have to roll out Daniel Jones at least for 2023 or 2024. So I'm okay with them letting Saquon walk, but they wanted Saquon to come back. It's just they wanted him to come back at their price. And that ended up not happening. So, but we're going to find out exactly how all that unfolded. But yeah, when Joe Schoen was talking to Saquon, yeah, he just did not seem interested in wanting to talk with him. It seemed like he had no interest. So, but we'll find out in next week's episode, how that all unfolded. I'm looking forward to that. It's been good so far. We'll find out, how the Brian Burns trade kind of went down. Because actually, that was the other thing, too. With the salary cap going up, Joe Schoen was very excited about that because, that gave the Giants more flexibility. And that I guess that was part of the reason why, they went out and they signed and they traded for Brian Burns and then signed him to a big contract. So, that was another thing that was at I think that was at the very beginning of the episode. So, but yeah, that's really my overall thoughts on it. Again, the Saquon stuff is like the juiciest part of these episodes because you want to see, how everything kind of unfolded behind the scenes. But again, I'm fine with Saquon leaving. I mean, going to the Eagles, yeah, I mean, there's a part of me where it stings. But, they're a better team. They're more equipped for making a deep playoff run, getting to a Super Bowl, and even winning a Super Bowl. The Giants aren't that team right now. Listen, Saquon staying would have been great, and he was probably the best offensive player. Well, no, not probably. He was the best offensive player. But, he's getting older, has dealt with injuries over the course of his career. And like I've been saying, the Giants had other needs that they needed to address. And overpaying for a running back that's, getting closer to 30, getting past his prime year soon, yeah, I think that was the right move. I think that was the right choice. Now, if you want to go back to when they had to decide between paying Daniel Jones and paying Saquon Barkley, maybe you pay Saquon Barkley and you let Daniel Jones walk. I don't know. But listen, all of this, Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones, these were guys drafted by Dave Gettleman. Joe Schoen and Brian Dable inherited this stuff, these players. So, it's not entirely on them. So, when they let Saquon Barkley walk, well, they didn't draft Saquon Barkley. I don't know. So, we'll find out what happens in episode 3, how things unfold. I guess we'll see. I think we're going to see the Brian Burns trade because we're getting up to free agency. So we'll see how it all goes. But let me know what you guys think about the episode. What were your overall thoughts on it? They release every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So, yeah, we're on episode 2 now. And then you got on Netflix. So those episodes are on, the Hard Knocks episodes are on Max. The receiver episodes, they're on Netflix. And Netflix, they just released all of them at the same time. And I only watched episode 1 last night. Got to see George Kittle's 30th birthday. He scored 3 touchdowns on his birthday. So that was funny. Because his wife hung, she threw a surprise party for him after the game against the Cowboys. And she hung, all of his shoes, on the ceiling. So, so that was funny. Episode 2 is going to be more focused on Justin Jefferson and Devontae Adams because they focused on Amon-Ra St. Brown, Debo, and George Kittle. And then you got Devontae and Justin Jefferson. I guess they'll focus more on them in episode 2. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think about a lot of NFL content coming out. So I'm going to continue to watch the receiver stuff on Netflix and maybe do, some topics on that. So, so we're going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, we will break down the Denver Broncos schedule for 2024. I'll give you my early win-loss predictions for them. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.